You ever pull out of your driveway, barely touch the throttle, and your F-150 hits that 2 to 3 shift so hard it feels like somebody tapped your bumper? Then a mile later it's fine. Then the next morning it does it again. And you start doing the Ford owner mental gymnastics. Maybe it's cold. Maybe it's learning. Maybe it's just the 10-speed being a 10-speed. Number. That's your transmission sending you a bill in advance. Because Ford didn't just build a 10-speed. They built a 10-speed with one weak link that turns normal shift weirdness into the exact ownership trap everybody's been screaming about for years. Harsh shifts, delayed engagement, random clunks. And then one day it's not drivability anymore. It's a $6,000 to $9,000 decision. Now here's the part that matters in 2026. Ford finally has a real fix path. Not magic, not it'll go away. A real fix. And the best part is, if you already own one, that fix can work on yours, depending on build date and what's actually failing. So today I'm going to break down what the 2026 fix really is, why the 10-speed got the reputation it did, how to tell if you're in the danger zone, and the exact steps that stop the clunk before it becomes a rebuild. Let's get into it. First, we need to stop calling this problem the 10-speed, because that's how Ford wins. If the problem is the 10-speed, it sounds vague. It sounds like a personality trait. But this isn't personality. This is a specific failure pattern in the 10R80. And here's the villain. Right now, early, no suspense. The CDF drum/clutch cylinder leak issue, and the way the transmission adapts around it until it can't. That's why it feels random. That's why one day it bangs, one day it flares, one day it hesitates. Because the computer is constantly trying to learn around a hydraulic problem that's getting worse. Now, quick context so we're on the same page. The 10R80 is in a ton of Ford stuff. F-150's, Expeditions, Mustangs, even vans. On paper, it's a great idea. More gears to keep the engine in the sweet spot. Better towing control, better efficiency, better acceleration. And when it's happy, it's honestly a good transmission. But owners aren't complaining because it has too many gears. They're complaining because it does 3 things that make you lose trust in a truck. Hard shifts, especially 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 7 to 8. Delayed engagement. You go to reverse or drive and it pauses like it's thinking about it. The clunk, that driveline smack that makes you look in the mirror. And here's where the story changes in 2026. Because Ford finally stopped pretending this is just normal operation. There's literally a service path now that tells technicians to test for hydraulic leakage tied to that CDF clutch cylinder movement. Translation: Ford knows the system can lose pressure where it shouldn't. And if you lose pressure inside an automatic transmission, you don't get a small symptom, you get chaos. So what's actually happening? Mechanism time, plain English. Inside the transmission, you've got clutch packs that apply and release to change gears. Those clutches need hydraulic pressure to apply smoothly. If you get internal leakage, pressure bleeding off instead of going where it needs to go, then the clutch applies late, or applies harsh, or slips and then grabs. That's your bang. That's your flare. That's your delay. And the reason this becomes a trap is because the transmission doesn't always fail like a light bulb. It fails like a relationship. It's fine until you look back and realize it's been getting worse for months. Now here's the first hard data that matters. This problem is heavily tied to build timing. Ford's own service guidance calls out vehicles built on or before mid-August 2022 for this harsh delayed engagement and harsh delayed shift issue. And the root cause described is that axial movement of the CDF clutch cylinder sleeve can create hydraulic circuit leaks. That date matters because it lines up with when updated internal designs started showing up. So the 2026 fix isn't one single magic software file. It's 2 things working together. 1. Updated hardware to stop the leak/movement problem. 2. Updated calibration plus test procedures so dealers can actually diagnose it instead of shrugging. That's why 2026 feels like a turning point, because the system finally has a real if this, then that fix path. But let's be honest, you don't care about Ford's internal wording. You care about one thing. Can I make my truck stop shifting like it's mad at me? Yes, if you do this in the right order. Because here's the second trap. A lot of owners waste money chasing the symptom instead of the cause. They do a fluid change, they do a relearn, they do a reset. It feels better for a bit, and then the clunk comes back. Why? Because if your issue is internal leakage, the computer can mask it temporarily by adapting, but it can't heal it. So here's the fix path that actually makes sense. Step 1. Identify if you're in the danger zone. If your truck is a 10R80 and you're seeing any combo of harsh 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 when cold, delayed reverse/drive engagement, repeated clunks on light throttle, weird hunting shifts at steady speed, you treat it like a real problem, not a personality. Now the key question. What's your build date? If you're pre-late 2022, you're more likely to be in the group where the updated internal hardware wasn't present from the factory. If you're later build, you can still have shift weirdness, but the odds shift toward calibration/learning issues or other components. This matters because it determines whether you're chasing software or you're chasing a mechanical leak. Step 2. Do the cheap stuff first, but only if you do it correctly. Here's what actually helps a healthy 10R80. Make sure you're on the latest transmission calibration. Reset adaptive shift tables and do the correct relearn procedure. Verify fluid level is correct. These transmissions can be picky. If your issue is mainly calibration and learning, this can transform the truck. This is why some guys swear the update fixed it, because on some trucks, it did. But if your issue is the CDF leak problem, you'll get temporary improvement, and then it starts creeping back. That creep back is the clue. Step 3. The test that separates annoying from failing. If the behavior keeps returning, you stop letting anybody tell you it's normal. You go in with one sentence. I want the CDF hydraulic leakage test performed. I'm getting harsh delayed shifts and engagement. Because that forces the conversation into the real failure pattern Ford has guidance for. And if the test shows leakage tied to that CDF clutch cylinder movement issue, the repair path becomes internal service, replacing that CDF cylinder assembly and inspecting related components. Here's why owners get shocked. It's not a 30-minute job. The labor time for this kind of internal service is measured in double-digit hours. And that's why the bill becomes a monster if you're out of warranty. And that's why catching it early matters. Quick pause. If you want more, save yourself before the invoice shows up, breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. Not because you love YouTubers, because this stuff is changing fast, and it's the difference between a smooth truck and a long, expensive headache. All right, back to it. Step 4. What the 2026 fix really is. So when people say Ford killed the 10-speed in 2026, they don't mean it disappeared. They mean Ford finally did what should have been done from the beginning. Updated the internal weak link so it can't move and bleed pressure the same way. Tightened the diagnostic and repair path so dealers aren't guessing. Improved calibration so the transmission doesn't feel like it's arguing with itself. That's why 2026 trucks should feel more consistent. Not because the 10-speed is new, because the problem child inside it got addressed and the tuning matured. Step 5. Fix works on yours. Your options based on your situation. Now the part you actually need. What do you do depending on your mileage and warranty? If you're under powertrain warranty, you don't wait. You go in while it's doing the symptom. Cold mornings are your best friend here. You describe it clearly: harsh shifts, which gears, delayed engagement, repeatable clunk, when it's worst, cold, towing, light throttle. And you push for the real test path, not just we reset it. Because once you're out of warranty, this becomes your bill. If you're out of warranty but symptoms are early, you have 2 smart moves. Get the latest calibration plus relearn plus correct fluid service and see if it stabilizes. If it returns, stop wasting time and get it diagnosed for internal leakage before you shred friction material. Because the cheapest version of this problem is fixing it before it spreads. If it's already slipping, banging constantly, or throwing codes, at that point, you're not negotiating with it. You're choosing between a rebuild that includes the updated hardware or a replacement/reman that you confirm has the updated internal design. And yes, you confirm, because the dumbest way to lose money is paying for a transmission replacement that still contains the same weak link. Now let's talk money, because this is why the video is called Changes Everything. A lot of owners tolerate a clunky 10-speed because it's not broken. But here's the 5-year math nobody runs. Let's say you keep the truck 5 years and you're making payments. Pick a common number, $1,000 a month. If your transmission problem turns into a real failure and the truck sits for even 3 weeks waiting on diagnosis and parts, that's about $750 in payments for a truck you're not driving. If it sits 6 weeks, that's $1,500 in payments for a lawn ornament. Now add the repair itself. Out of warranty, I've seen rebuild/replacement quotes land anywhere from the mid-thousands up to the "are you kidding me" range depending on dealer versus independent. That's why this is a trap. The clunk isn't the cost. The clunk is the warning that the cost is coming. So the smartest play is preventing the wear cascade that turns a fixable internal issue into a full transmission bill. The verdict: Ford didn't end the 10-speed. They ended the era where they could pretend the bad ones were just normal. The 2026 fix is basically this: updated internals plus better diagnostic path plus better calibration. And if you already own a 10R80, the fix can absolutely work on yours, but only if you treat it like a real mechanical issue and you push it through the right repair path instead of playing reset roulette. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you own a 10-speed F-150, comment your model year, your mileage, and your exact symptom: harsh 2 to 3, delayed drive reverse, clunk, hunting. Because the pattern shows up fast when you get real owner data. And if you're shopping, ask the dealer one question before you sign. If my 10-speed starts harsh shifting, what's your lead time for transmission diagnostics and internal repair? Because the real trap isn't just the part, it's the time. See you in the next one.